Next point of adoption that we're seeing is around demo environments and model office. So if you're launching a huge change program and you're buying, let's imagine you're buying a quite expensive software stack for your CRM or whatever it might be, then the ability to show demo environments to customers, to your internal stakeholders, your business users, and for them to play with it, hack about, create a customer, delete a customer, go through a workflow, whatever it might be, that's something we're seeing quite a lot of as well. So traditionally, this would have been maybe offered by the software vendor of the products you're buying, but you have to pay for it one way or the other, right? You've got to pay for it somehow. It's either factored into your license cost or it's hiding there somewhere. So the ability to do a demo for an hour, turn it off, turn it on, stop for lunch, whatever it is, do those, and just literally pay for an hour of, I don't know, 10. So for one environment we've done, it's, I don't know, something like 10 or 11 instances, but quite significant beasts, several Oracle databases and so on. To start that up for an hour, run a demo, and then pause it for lunch, and then come back after lunch, and then start paying again. I mean, it's just great. It's just a perfect fit. Okay. The third thing that we're seeing and doing is, I just want to stress, was around disaster recovery or business continuity planning. I think this is a killer scenario for enterprises to adopt infrastructure as a service. So that's just a snippet from a press release that Amazon did about in August with one of our customers, Haven Power. So what we're doing with Haven Power is we're building, we're actually in the commissioning phase now, building a disaster recovery solution that's entirely based on AWS. Okay, so they've got their own on-premise data centers, which they've grown up as a business, and as that press release is saying, we're creating an AWS hosted DR solution for their entire corporate estate, essentially, or the bits of the corporate estate they choose to have DR, a disaster recovery for. Now, the killer benefits here, that the cost and agility of this compared with traditional disaster recovery solutions is just immense. And I'm trying to kind of extract some numbers, and get some more of a concrete business case around that. Because I think that'll be really useful to explore once we're fully through the process. But I think it's very clear that the agility is great, but the cost savings compared with basically having a set of equipment that you may never use, but you boot up once a month just to make sure that the fuses don't go pop, right, as it were. It's just chalk and cheese. So it's a truly transformational opportunity, I think. So I just want to drill into this in a little bit of detail, just to give you a sort of a feel for the complexity. So this is using, as I said earlier about Amazon's virtual private cloud offering becoming sort of the default standard that I think we're using for everything these days. So, because it allows you to expose certain areas, certain subnets to the internet if you want to, or not at all. So in this particular example, we've got an entirely public area. So it's got like a proxy server and that kind of stuff running, which is exposed to the internet, but everything else is entirely private. Okay, and so we've then got a bank of terminal services. So if in a DR scenario, if the customer's lost all their desktops because their office has gone, right, let's say, so then key users in that organization can still get onto a standard desktop as long as they can basically have a laptop and they can get on an internet connection, then through VPN, which is so a bunch of VPN terminations here, they can access a standard desktop and basically the business can still carry on. Okay, and all these are turned off. In the non-DR scenario, it's all turned off, and you're paying basically pretty much nothing, right? And then we've got a collection of things like SQL Server databases and basically the corporate file servers and all those kind of things. So that's where we are today, as far as I'm concerned. That's the kind of art of the possible. And that's basically what we're selling to customers, right? And what we're seeing demand for. And then tomorrow, where I see it going, so there's going to be more and more highly business critical apps. It's an unstoppable train as far as I'm concerned. Most organisations need some kind of compelling event. So if you've just sunk 5 million into tin to host your billing platform, you're probably not going to move it, are you? But in 3 years' time, when you've got when that's looking, like that tin needs to be replaced, you've got a compelling event. That's when you're going to make the leap. So that's why it's going to take a number of years. And then the second thing I just wanted to mention about tomorrow rather than today is around big data. So, is anybody who's heard of big data? Hands up. Okay, right, so I'll just give a quick bit of background. So, so big data is the next buzzword for you to write down, right? But essentially, cloud computing is enabling the processing of massive data sets at very high performance volume in terms of lots of volume of CPUs and cores you can throw at it, right? So that's, and because there's masses of data being collected in the world, as we all know, and it's growing at a crazy rate, it gives you the ability to analyze and chew through those data sets that your organizations all own and glean new insights from those data sets that you just couldn't have economically done before, okay? Now so I hope that doesn't sound too Star Trek, right? But I think this is going to be very transformational in the kind of commercial marketplace. So the stuff I focused on the previous slide was largely around speed to market, agility, and to some extent cost. So it was kind of in the profit and loss world, it was kind of mainly controlling the cost line and getting to market quicker, right? For me, on the big data side, it could also be about cost, but it's very much about growing the top line as well of organizations. So if you can understand your customers and their buying patterns better than your competitor, if you can segment your customers to to, let's say, postcode level rather than town level, as a silly example, and understand their buying patterns to that level, then you can market to them better, you can sell them the right things, you can make personalised recommendations on your website, or whatever it might be, okay, whatever your business area is. So I think any business sector, any sector this applies to. I just wanted to leave you with a little example of some of the sort of standard security features that you might build into an Amazon Web Services deployment. Just because for me, it's not just about infrastructure service being ready. You need to have confidence that that it's matured to a point where you can have secure deployments. So I just wanted to give you a few sort of takeaways about that. So here's a genericized deployment ripped from one of our customers. So this is a very simple demo environment. It's actually there's a couple of SAP servers. This is for doing these business demos I talked about. And these two SAP boxes these virtual machines are the larger instances in this diagram. So this is where the per hour cost spend largely is. The other servers are very low cost because they're very small instances, okay? So whilst it may look like there's a lot of kind of infrastructure, in cost terms, the cost is over here, not over here. So what we've got is we've got a bunch of desktops inside an organization's network. So let's say inside your organization, connects through, in this case, over the internet. That's kind of how you start. So rather than using a site-to-site VPN, which is what I talked about for DR, where you want to replicate things real time, you want a really good connection all the time, this is just using a client-to-site VPN. So it's just like you start up a VPN just like you might do on your desktop, okay? These users to get access. And then just to drill into some of the details. The first thing we've got is we've got a VPN termination, so a VPN gateway instance, which is one instance running on AWS, which is terminating these VPN connections. So nobody can get on from the public internet. If you can't build a VPN, you can't get in, right? There's no public, although it's called public cloud, right? It's all VPC, this virtual private cloud. There's no public exposure at all. When I say exposure, I mean no IP ports you can hit. Right? And then our standard models, we add two management servers, which are, I say, running on quite small instances, quite small virtual machines. And we have so on the left here, we have a bastion host. So this is essentially a single choke point for admin access to the environment. So if you want to do any administration using a SSH, secure shell, PuTTY, I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's the tool used to get command line access. Then that's your choke point. And you can't even actually sign on to this box. All you can do is route through it to get PuTTY access to the other devices. So that's a security choke point. And then another pattern, as in a usage pattern, is that we don't even run this server. So the server's not even running in general. And then if you need to do any administration, the first thing you do is use the Amazon tools to start the instance, and then you could administer the SAP boxes, okay? So it's not even running. You can't attack it because it's not there, right? On the management server is just a very low spec instance that's allowing us to automatically start and stop the environment. So different customers want different things, right? So I'm sure that applies to you. So some customers want to manually start and stop an environment, as I showed you earlier. Some customers want their dev environment to come up at 9 in the morning and shut down at 6 o'clock at night, and depending on what territories their developers are coming from and that kind of stuff. So there's a different set of requirements. And also you want the environments to be backed up every night. So we do snapshots, which is one of the Amazon tools for doing that. So the management server controls that. So we've what we use to manage that is we built our own tooling, which uses the Amazon Web Services to manage. So we manage a collection of servers, and okay, you can start and stop them individually, but you can actually start and stop them as a set, bring the whole lot up, bring the whole lot down, and take snapshots and that kind of stuff. So just to wrap up, I think takeaways I want to leave you with. Well, the first one was define an adoption strategy, okay, which is what we talked about earlier on. So define a vision. So where are you today? Define your vision point, and then define a roadmap for, say, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. And then have a review, also design in a review cycle of that. And really, all this, in my world, is all part of enterprise architecture, as I said earlier. So if you've got an EA function in your organisation, or an architecture function of some sort, then they should have a kind of periodic refresh of their understanding of the kind of architecture of the enterprise anyway. So that would be a natural home. And then crucially, enable its execution. So there's no point, it's a bit trite, but there's no point having a strategy without any execution behind it. Otherwise, it's just shelfware, isn't it, or Prezziware. So, so it's absolutely crucial to actually to enable your organisation to exploit what you're asking them to exploit. So, for example, a concrete example of that, if you say, "Hey, brilliant, we're going to move workloads A, B, and C in 6 months to AWS," okay, then if you don't provide any way of actually provisioning the resources and getting the accounts to the right people, and some kind of service management wrap. So who's going to look after it? 100 VMs running on AWS is still 100 VMs, right? So if you don't want to get into virtual machine sprawl, then you've still got the same problems as if you had your own private cloud or your own data center. Those things don't go away. So you've got to enable your organisation to be able to exploit the strategy, to execute the strategy, not just put something out there and expect the world to be able to do it. Exploit emerging best architecture practices. So I've talked a bit about security and those kind of areas. What I haven't discussed at all, because I haven't got time, is going into the whole kind of how you build a resilient architecture. So that's a whole extra discussion about how you build a resilient architecture on infrastructure as a service that's geographically dispersed across multiple regions or multiple zones, failover and all that stuff. But there's best practices around that you can exploit, so absolutely do so. And thirdly, absolutely crucial for me is manage it. So if you've got infrastructure as a service deployments, as I said, they still need to be managed, they still need to be backed up, still need to be recovered. Data centers will go down, right? Whoever's running them, and you need to allow for that. And it's still the same basic kind of ITIL v3 best practice service management disciplines that you need. The fact it's running on Amazon or in your own data center, you've got the same challenges. You still need to worry about capacity management. You still need to worry about understanding what the cost of ownership is. You still need to do change control. Those things still exist, right? So, so I think it's very easy to get to kind of be dominated by ooh, look, I've got some new toys to play with. But it all comes back to good service management discipline, really.